thing that I want to just acknowledge right off the bat
Yeah.
is that I think that there's so much division between points of view on certain things because just depends on the media that you're getting it from. And, if you watch left-leaning, left-biased media, then you're typically to get that viewpoint. And if you watch right-wing, right-leaning media, and it's really hard to find unbiased news because there's so much like division because things are so divided and they seem so clear to both people depending on what you're watching. Seems so true, at least like what I watch a lot of times. I'm like, I trust these sources, and so yeah, and I imagine you and millions of other people do the same, and there's just like a shit ton of YouTube videos of every fucking opinion you could ever have on everything.
Absolutely.
So it's hard to filter that. So I just want to understand that we both have certain biases from whatever news we have been exposed to. And so we've been trying to share links to try to cross that barrier.
Right. Right. And, again, I really appreciate you being open to doing that with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I think it's really valuable to have those conversations, and not just, especially now with all the lockdown and whatnot, people are more isolated than usual. And how are people going to have these conversations otherwise, right?
It's true. And I think these are conversations that have been dividing us lately. And so the more different, like having two different perspectives and finding common ground, and I think that can be beneficial for, just bringing people together instead of just like the continual division that gets stronger and stronger until, it reaches a certain point or whatever.
Yeah, we never did end up talking about it, but we were talking about the possibility of civil war happening in the United States. Do you think that's a real possibility?
I think it's a possibility. And what I think by civil war is not like what you imagine, like the American Civil War. I think of it more of like a soft civil war, which is like domestic terrorist attacks that are ramped up and regular, and not like states taking sides and like the North versus South, or the Union versus federal. But it's more like these like right-wing militia pockets, or whatever it is that are
or left-wing protests that turn into riots.
Yeah, but that's not. I wouldn't agree with. Like that's not what I see for what could happen from the left wing. If I could see something happen as far as a violent civil war, like soft civil war, like thing that I'm talking about, that more involves like what I think of right-wing domestic terrorist groups, or like white supremacy domestic terrorist groups. But I could see a response from the left if there was like a disputed election and Trump said, Biden cheated, and then refuses to concede and leave office, then like calls on his like army, of supporters of like the more extremist ones, like that he's called on before. That
how has he called on them before?
He did it during the debate where he said he wanted his army of supporters. He used the term army of supporters to watch the polls, which is basically voter intimidation.
I don't recall him using the word army, especially in that context of watching the polls. Like the way I interpreted that, because I watched the debate, right?
Yeah.
The way I interpreted watch the polls is he believes that Democrats are going to cheat. And so watch them when they count the votes so that they don't cheat.
Here's the thing, is like he's calling on people to, and a lot of these people like believe in open carry and like their Second Amendment rights, and will have no problem showing up to protest with like being armed. These people showing up to polls to police and watch, it has the effect, whether it's intended or not, of intimidating certain people from showing up. And that's why it's illegal. And that's the general consensus of
it's illegal to bring a gun to polls?
Yeah, I believe
Okay.
so. It's voter intimidation type of stuff.
Sure.
But it should be illegal, and I'm pretty sure it is illegal.
Well, if it's illegal, then they won't be able to do it. It's just
right. This is the thing. There's this pattern of calling on this lawlessness from Trump that's like calling people to do things like things like the Kyle Rittenhouse happened because Kyle Rittenhouse wanted to, he wanted to be a policeman. He had this like dream of playing police. And so that's what he was doing. He was going there armed, like trying to do, like take the law into his own hands. And that led to somebody who's untrained, who having a reaction and shooting a couple people, killing them. So this again is like taking the law into your own hands, and that's where you get into this kind of
but I think especially
reaction to that. If
let's go one case at a time here. Like, let's talk about what he said about watching the polls. I think you're assuming a lot. You're extrapolating a lot from what was said.
I also saw ads right after that, which were he used the term army in the ads, and it was talking about like rallying your army and getting your troops to watch the polls. I need poll watchers, and that's what they call it, but it's really poll intimidators.
Well, do me a favor and send that to me, because that was the opinion that you shared last time, was that he was recommending that people intimidate. Yeah, okay. Yeah, send that to me.
I will. I'll make a note. And anyway, so like that's one thing. But the other, for instance, that just happened recently was, and not to jump around too much.
Let's not jump around. Let me answer to Kyle Rittenhouse for a second. Like let's go one thing at a time, right? Okay, so again, Kyle Rittenhouse was a 17-year-old kid. He didn't like what he was seeing with the protests and riots. And so he was there. It was an open carry state, I guess. Like, at least I know he wasn't supposed to have that weapon. It was an illegal weapon. Is that right? He was a counter protester, basically. And he felt like he was defending people against injustice that
he was taking the law into his own hands. Was he a trained officer?
Does that mean that he can't be there? He has every right to be there at a protest.
With an AK-47, do you really think that that's a good idea?
I don't think it's a good idea, but I think that
idea.
Well, I think that it's a bad idea to light businesses on fire too.
Yeah, but it's like there's the police response already going on, which is tear gas and rubber bullets, which is an extreme response to protest about police brutality. So here
it's not a protest at the point where it becomes violent.
Bringing in federal officers unasked into Portland as well, and just taking people off the streets, just randomly grabbing people.
That's because the Portland governor, Ted Wheeler, wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do anything about all of it. I think it's great that he did that. And I actually heard
this immature, irresponsible idiot with a fucking AK in a chaotic situation.
Well, in that situation, I believe what he did was self-defense, and I think he's going to walk.
Well, look, I know that that's what you think, and
that's what the evidence shows.
I don't think that the proper response to getting punched would be to shoot somebody.
No, the proper response to being attacked while you have an obvious weapon strapped to your body, and as you're running away from the guy who's chasing you to maul you, a gunshot rings out from behind you. Yeah, how is he supposed to know that he's not being shot at?
Well, how is that person who got shot's fault? You know, that the gunshot rang off.
Because it's a very stupid idea to attack someone who has a gun strapped to their chest.
Okay, then I could see like a manslaughter charge in that case instead of self-defense, because he was in a situation that he put himself in by bringing this gun to this fucking chaotic event going on here. Who knows what happened before that? It sounded like there was some beef between him and the people.
Because he was trying to put out dumpster fires that they were running towards gas station.
Who knows? But that's not a
No,
warrant.
that's what happened.
That's what you're.
That's what the witnesses who the
you
journalists
watch.
who filmed the entire thing. Don't you find it a little strange that you were unaware that there was video of the first shooting, and you had already made up your mind about it?
I made up my mind based on the fact that somebody shouldn't be walking into a fucking event with an AK-47.
An event that he felt was completely un-American and he disagreed with on principle. Un-American to burn down people's stuff.
It was a small percentage of people causing
billions and billions of dollars worth of damage.
Anyways, like that is. Do you understand what the protests were about? Police brutality. Do you understand?
But all of that was based on lies.
Do that, which instigated it even more.
But it was all based on lies. All of the Black Lives Matter police incidents were lies.
Wait, the video evidence of the police killing, all of them were lies.
Yeah, based on big lies. No, let's go through them. Like I'm not just trying to be an asshole. I want to show you.
No, I'm like amazed that you would say that. It's a bold statement.
Well, of course it is a bold statement because all of the media and all of the politicians are backing these lies and telling these lies.
What about the videos of that happening and like the obvious evidence?
Let's go through them one by one.
Okay.
I'm well versed on all of them.
George Floyd, Breonna.
Yes, George
Taylor.
Floyd. Let's start with George.
Okay.
Have you seen the body cam footage?
I think I've seen it. It was been a while ago. I watched a lot of that footage.
I've seen multiple angles of the body cam footage.
This guy, how did they not murder him?
The guy that was out of his mind on drugs. The guy who was saying, "I can't breathe, I have claustrophobia," before they put him into the police car, which he kicked his way out of, claiming that they were so nice to him. They were de-escalating for half an hour. Dude. They were de-escalating. And he was resisting arrest the entire time. He kicked his way out of the police car. He was on the ground kicking and thrashing.
An illegal chokehold for like 8 minutes.
Believing that he was going to die. Well, by the way, the cops were trained to do that in rare cases where they deemed it necessary. When people are in a state of excited delirium. Are you aware of excited delirium?
What?
I'm just saying they do train people to restrain people with a knee on the back or neck.
A lot of those restraints are illegal in various places, and they also
it wasn't illegal.
And that doesn't really say a lot. I mean, the police are in trouble because of all the shitty like shoot to kill kind of before you ask any questions like mentality that they're training these.
Well, we can go through case by case though, and we can also look at the statistics.
Okay, Breonna Taylor, this woman EMT sleeping in her house.
I mean, we should finish with George Floyd, okay? Again,
George Floyd, I watched it. It was pretty fucking clear to me, and I don't know what you're referring to. So
I'm referring to the body cam footage, but let me tell you, okay? I don't know if I don't know enough about that case, about the Derek Chauvin. I don't know enough about him to say for sure that he didn't have malicious intent, but the entire body cam videos
that guy
pretty much indicate that there was no malicious intent in that event.
There was
no racism.
Were really clear, and the
other video. I saw the other video. I saw the one. I saw the
to some like racist white supremacy shit. I can't remember.
Racist white supremacy shit. What?
Yeah, Derek Chauvin he was fired from somewhere for being racist, or written up a number of times for
Send
using
that to me.
Force. Okay, I will.
Okay, because I never found anything of that sort. But that is what obviously the people on the left are hoping to find. So if there is evidence of that, show me.
I will. Like, where are you getting? Are you watching all these right-wing YouTube?
I'm watching the body cam videos, man. I'm watching the body cam videos. I know what happened.
Send that to me because I want to watch what you watch.
So you know when he's saying "I can't breathe" on the ground?
Yeah.
Again, remember that he has been saying "I can't breathe" for a while before they even get him on the ground. So when he's saying "I can't breathe," the other police are the police are saying, "You're talking a lot for a guy who can't breathe, right? Like you're breathing fine." They're telling him that as he's saying it. You can't hear that from the angle that got all the publicity, but that's what's happening. They're restraining him because he's resisting arrest, and thrashing around and kicking his legs. That's why they're holding his legs down.
There's like 4 fucking people there.
He didn't want to go in the police car.
And just
He was
handcuff him and hold him and
his
like
girlfriend said he's crazy. He's got something going on. So he was in a state. He was in a paranoid state of excited delirium.
You kill him.
They didn't kill him. They didn't kill him. Do you think he was asphyxiated?
Yes.
He wasn't. No, he wasn't. He died of cardiac arrest. And he had a heart disease. He had heart disease. Two different things.
It was caused by them kneeling on him.
It was caused by the drugs and the state of excited delirium, and I believe that's what the jury will find.
Okay. All right. Let's move on.
Breonna Taylor. Do you think she was shot in her sleep?
Yes.
She was in a hallway.
Okay, I thought she was in bed.
They knocked and announced. Did you know that? Several times.
Unannounced is what
they announced several times.
Unannounced. The witnesses.
They knocked and announced.
Well, the witnesses and the surviving boyfriend who got shot a bunch of times that I saw the interview with said they did not.
Said he didn't hear them.
And the witnesses, the neighbors said they didn't hear them either. So obviously it wasn't done loud enough or clear enough before you bust in somewhere and start shooting.
They have witness testimony that says they didn't hear the announcement.
But
neighbors, but he wasn't knocking on the neighbor's door. He wasn't yelling into the neighbor's apartment.
It was in like an apartment building.
Were they? Well, how did they know that anything was happening when they heard the shots? So what? They didn't wake up. Like what time? This was in the late evening, right? They could have been sleeping. It's like they weren't announcing to the neighbors that.
Yeah, but if you're gonna bust in somewhere and start shooting up a place, you have to fucking make it clear that you're.
They claim they did, and you don't want to believe what the police
they're going to claim they did. They claim they lie all the fucking time. That's what they do. They just stick up.
Are you sure? Because I think the police are so unfairly demonized by the left right now and by the media.
No, I feel like you're terribly mistaken there. But
so Breonna Taylor, I'm not justifying. I'm not saying that it's a good thing that she died. But she was a drug dealer and posed with AR-15s and guns, right? There's 3 different pictures of her posing with guns.
She was an EMT. This is like fucking smear.
Oh wait, no. You don't know that? No, that's a fact. She was involved with drug dealing, and there's her text messages where she's talking about selling the drugs with her boyfriend, who has a history of violence.
Like, there's not a fucking death sentence either. So
no, it's not.
It's just the point of it is to try to smear these people, and whereas like. When it's Kyle Rittenhouse, you're like, oh, he was a good kid.
But did you realize she was a drug dealer, though? Did you realize they were there?
How these things are treated in that right side's viewpoint of like you treat like how they even arrest people. They like let the Kyle Rittenhouse walk away, whereas that guy who shot the right-wing protester who also claimed he did it in self-defense.
Again, you're assuming a lot. You're assuming a lot about him walking past the police. You're assuming a lot about that. You don't know what the police could hear at that time or how they perceived the situation. You don't know.
Yeah, but this is a pattern that keeps happening of that the people that don't deserve.
I see the pattern as being full of lies. Like
Eric Gardner, who was selling loose cigarettes. There was Trayvon Martin. There was that kid.
Yeah, Trayvon Martin. I looked into that case too.
Okay, he was walking down the street eating Skittles, and George Zimmerman stalked him down and fucking shot. Got in a
really. Then why didn't he go to jail?
Because the justice system is fucked, and there's something
either that or his
stand your ground. Or even though you're stalking this kid and you start a fight with him, and then you shoot him because you say you were afraid for your life. In Florida, that's called stand your ground.
Did you know that Trayvon Martin's parents said, "Hey, if this hadn't happened now, he would have ended up in jail or dead soon enough anyway."
Well, who the fuck cares if they said that? That doesn't change the fact that.
What if that guy? Did you see his wounds? Did you see his wounds? Did you see that guy's wounds on his head? This kid attacked him. This kid was on top of him, slamming his head into the pavement.
Had no place to be starting shit with this kid.
Yes, he did. He was neighborhood watch. That was his neighborhood, and that kid was there to. That kid.
Do you know about racial profiling and about the systematic kind of thing that comes from like it started in like slavery times, and then it went to the 13th Amendment where they want to keep more brown and black people locked up in order to use them for prison labor and to just continue this racial cycle, and then there was stop and frisk and racial profiling. And so
I
this is a
started that documentary.
systematic abuse of people based on skin color through racism from cops that have like actually white supremacy groups that have made it a point to infiltrate the police.
Yeah, I want you to send me that. You mentioned that as well. I haven't seen that. I watched some of, I didn't finish the 13th documentary. I plan to. I tried to do as much research as I possibly could for this discussion. I tried to be very clear on all of these police incidents that Black Lives Matter have given so much attention in the media and the politicians. So, but here you have to understand, like, you don't know the specifics of that case. You have a narrative about what happened there, but it could be, what's that?
You as well.
Yeah, but do you understand that guy had his head slammed into the pavement several times by that kid who was on top of him? Do you understand that?
I don't fucking care.
You don't care about the details.
That he stalked this guy because there's a phone call where he's like calling the 911.
What if that kid was in the neighborhood to rob a house?
Dude, like, you can't do these what ifs about people walking down the street.
That's his neighborhood. He's a neighborhood watch. Do you realize that?
Yeah, but he has no right to go stalk somebody and fuck with them.
He didn't have. Yeah, well, who knows? Who knows what really happened that day? But the details make it clear that the kid wasn't such a good kid. His own parents said he would have ended up in jail or dead.
He started selling memorabilia of that, like bags of Skittles that he was signed because Trayvon Martin was carrying a bag of Skittles.
I'll look into that. It sounds like he's an asshole. Like if he did that,
that's horrible. Asshole, and
we'll see. Well, I don't know if he did that. That could be false.
Okay, there was this kid in Colorado. What was his fucking name? He was kind of like on the spectrum. He was walking to the store to get a tea for his brother, and he was murdered by the police. They injected him with ketamine, and I think he died from the injection or whatever they gave him.
You don't have his name?
Elijah. Okay. Elijah.
Oh, I heard about that. I mean, I heard the name.
He was a fucking sweetheart too. He would, like, his last words were like, "I love you. I don't blame you." He would fucking play violin for like stray animals at the pound, and like for cats and stuff. He was just like a beautiful weirdo. But he happened to be black, and he happened to be walking down the street, and he was harassed by the police for walking because that's what they do, And
okay,
and
so I'll tell you what, Josiah, I'll look into that one because I didn't look into that one. But let's at least talk about a lot of the major ones that I have looked into. Right, Michael Brown is another one.
Okay, is that who was shot right before the Kenosha shooting stuff? That's why they kind of.
No, Michael Brown was back in, I think, maybe 2017. He started it was a different round of protests. Michael Brown was the gentle giant who hands up, don't shoot.
Okay, yeah.
He didn't have his hands up. He wasn't a gentle giant. He's on video strong-arming the convenience store owner who tries to stop him from walking out with Swisher Sweets that he was stealing. And then he punched the cop in the face and tried to take his gun. That's where he got the first shot was fired by the police. And then he, I don't know, tried to charge the cop or something and got shot. It was all a lie.
I mean, I feel like you tell me these things and then I look it up and I get another story. So
no. Give me one example of that. Has that happened yet? Because I can prove all this Michael Brown stuff.
The last time we talked, there was some stuff like that. You talked about the ballot harvesting from Ilhan Omar, the congresswoman, and I showed you that was a total.
I still think that's real. I still think they're dated. They're dated. Like I looked at some of the counter stuff that was out there saying, "Oh, those were older tweets about something different." They're dated on the Snapchats.
The person who they had on the video came forward and said they paid him $10,000 to lie and say that he's been harvesting ballots for Ilhan Omar, and that was this.
That's ridiculous. You can't believe your eyes.
They're being sued for a number of other false smear campaigns where they tried to do some kind of gonzo journalism
Project
and shit.
Veritas is coming out with really interesting stuff right now. Like there's
Well,
a Democratic Party member from Colorado who says 2020 is a political revolution. Guillotines, slicey boys. Like he's talking about killing Nazis in the streets, killing random bootlickers, and
who's saying
it's
that?
real. He's a real Democratic Party guy.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So
I,
Project Veritas is coming out with interesting stuff. So
well, I know that they're getting sued from some past stuff that they did, which was also very shady. Trying to just like set somebody up to capture certain things to create a narrative that they got busted trying to do. I think that was about an abortion clinic, harvesting organs or some shit.
yeah.
Anyways,
One sec.
check out this shirt. I made it. Magic is real.
Fuck the police.
Just for this conversation, Kellen.
Do you know how important police are to the functioning of society? Hugely important.
How police started? Police were originally created to track down escaped slaves, and so there are means of control for the populace. And a bunch of things that they do they shouldn't be doing, like handling calls about mentally ill people or people that are like having a drug tweak out or something like that, because there's other people that can handle these things much better. So that's what they mean by defund the police. I'm not about abolishing, thank you, the entire police. And that's not what the defund police movement is about either.
Actually, the Black Lives Matter has said that the eventual abolishment of the police is on their mandate.
Well, I think if we could do it, that's great, but you have to have some other solutions.
You can't. Human beings have a lot of violence in their nature. You need a state to prevent violence, to have the monopoly on violence.
But that you get out what you put in. So they put in violence and they get out violence, and it's about the control aspect and creating disharmony. And you need it right now because the system is fucked up. This capitalist system that just moves all the wealth, the majority of it, to the top 1% of the people, and then everybody else is like fighting for crumbs and starving. And if you had, like, for instance,
as far as I know, it like in Canada anyway, it works really well. Capitalism works great. Amazing. Yeah, but it has wonderful.
It doesn't work amazing. No, we could do a lot better. There's like hybrid systems and things that we can think. Capitalism is not the end all. It's just where we're at right now.
It's better than anything else that has ever been tried by a million miles. Like anytime pure communism was tried, it was horrible.
Pure communism.
A nightmare.
What about democratic socialism?
What's democratic socialism?
Like we could have healthcare in America like you have in Canada. That'd be nice. Is that
I don't have
socialism?
a problem with that.
Is that socialism?
No.
Because that's what they call socialism here.
Some of them do, and I don't agree with that. I think you guys should have a better healthcare system.
All the right side GOP people do, They said that, then we'll have, and so that's one thing. Schools, libraries, those are free. Is that socialism? No. So we just you would actually solve a lot more problems with mental illness and crime, for instance, if you provided free and affordable housing for everybody who needs it.
Free and affordable housing, though. But how do you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
Why wouldn't you do that?
Because people own properties. People own things. Like, don't you believe in property rights?
You can still have property rights and ownership. I'm not saying people can't.
And then and then force people to give houses to other people.
No, people aren't forcing. It's the money that we pay into the system through our taxes that. So much of it goes to the military industrial complex, and a lot of tax loopholes and all this kind of stuff, and offshore accounts. All this money could be brought in, if you had just go back to the taxes before the 1970s or whatever, for the corporate tax rate and all this. If you brought that in, there'd be more than enough money to create sustainable things like this that would then solve all these problems. Like a lot of the mental illness, it comes from the stress of not having a house over your head or knowing how you're going to eat, or the crime of, needing to sell drugs or do this because you don't know when your next meal will come from or how you're going to pay your rent or whatever. you know, all these things are part of this cycle
No, I
that
get it.
has to
That's
do with the sickness part of capitalism. Like that's the symptoms of an endless war in other countries too. You know, you're going to constantly like extract resources from the environment, causing climate change and all this. So I'm
okay,
just
but yeah,
saying,
so
we make money now. We have
you're saying we don't
smart
have
fucking
to
people.
get rid of capitalism, you just want more social programs, but you're at the same time you have a quite anti-capitalist vein. Like you seem to be blaming capitalism
I
for all this
do
stuff.
have an anti-capitalist vein.
Yeah,
It's true. It's true. I don't disagree with that. And I think that, you know, I'd prefer, like, you know, the modification of this system that we're in order to move towards more and more humanitarian and sustainable things, and away from the things that like destroy the earth, cause climate change, cause, you know, a lot of inequality. And so I'm not against it, like people can't be successful, or like the American dream of like, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to like create this new thing, and like, and I want, you know, to receive the benefits of that. Like I think that's great too. I think innovation is great,
yeah.
but I think that you don't have to have one or the other extreme. And just like right now, we can't. I mean, unless things collapse and we have to rebuild from like scratch in small communities or something like that, then, you know, we have to try to
That would be,
transition this
things
system
wouldn't
into something that,
collapse in a good way, and it wouldn't be small
I don't
communities
think
and
it'd
that.
be
It would
pretty.
go back to
I
what it
think that
was for all of human history, which is tribal warfare and warlords and kings that were
I think
despotic.
that's like
It would.
that's not a holistic view
And
of.
then it would be China taking over America. Like, you don't want
I
collapse.
mean, you don't
Trust me.
know that either. It's like, um, we don't need like a military to double the rest of the world, um, and we don't need to spend that much money on like the constant wars, because then it's actually an incentive to have wars, because we have a war economy from people making weapons, so we need more war.
Speaking of
And
that, do you know
then,
Donald Trump hasn't gotten the U.S. into any new wars?
well, thank fucking God, like
Thank
good
fucking
job.
God.
Like,
Good job
give
is
him a
right.
pat
In
back
fact,
for that, you
there's a lot
know.
of things he
He
should get patted
tried.
on the back
He
for, but the media
tried.
would never.
He
The
like
media would never.
assassinated that Iranian dude. That almost started a war. You know, like
I thought that was a good thing.
no, it wasn't. It was
I know, like
the
from the
reason.
left, you don't like hearing about people being assassinated and whatnot, but a lot of this stuff I think is done for the sake of peace and for the sake of the safety of your country.
See, I think that's been the storyline for so long, but I don't think it holds up. I think by now we know, like, this isn't for peace. This is for like fucking control and geopolitical control of the
What
world.
if that means
And
peace? What if what
what does it
America
mean?
is actually the greatest
Peace?
system on the planet,
It's like
except for
peace or
maybe
war.
Canada.
The thing is peace or war. It makes zero fucking sense, and it's bullshit, you know. And
Things are
wow, is the
complicated and
world more
nuanced,
peaceful
though.
now than it was like before we
Yes.
started all the fucking wars? No, because we have more wars. There's more people dying from war and
No,
famine,
no,
all
no.
the things.
Violence in every type, every category of violence is on a steady downtrend. You should read
Oh, really?
The Better Angels of Our Nature by Steven Pinker. It's yeah, I forget the subtitle, but it's great, and it's all about the trends of how violence has actually gone down and how a democratic capitalist society is the least violent society that has ever existed in the world.
Hasn't America started more shit around the world than anybody else in this century?
It may
Uh,
be that they're doing that in order to maintain peace all over the world.
no, that is the what they're trying to tell us, but
What if it's true though? Like, what if humans are actually violent creatures? What if
well, what makes
coalitional
you say
violence
that?
is tribal violence is
I
in
think that
our
that's a
nature?
that's a mentality that goes back to, you know, that's a question that goes back in time, and like people, they look at you know, the fucking what's his name, you know, the origin of species.
Darwin.
So Darwin, thank you. And there's been a certain storyline that has survival of the fittest, and that's what we know. That's what we're taught out of that. But what I heard is actually that's a very small part of the origin of species, and it mentions cooperation and love.
Yep,
And
humans have a great tendency towards
like way
cooperation.
more, and all species do. You know, everything works in this harmonious
We
way.
also cooperate to commit violence naturally as well. But yes, we're very good cooperators.
Why does the violence happen? If we want to look at it psychologically, a lot of violence happens from, okay, some of it happens from mental illness, some of it happens from drug and alcohol abuse, some of it happens from childhood abuse that happened by their parents, and then they're angry or inflicted in some way. Some happens out of like robberies and wanting to steal something, and some of that, the reason that comes about is somebody feeling like they don't have enough, or they weren't cared for. And then there's gang violence and all this stuff from kids that join gangs on the streets to feel like they can belong to some kind of community and have some kind of way of supporting themselves because they were raised in these streets. And so again, it comes back to these systematic issues that could be handled by putting money and care and love into the system instead of violence and control and all this. Because you know what happens when you do that? Psychologically, you have more of that. You put in that, you get more of that. So you want to try something new here, something that we haven't tried would be going in that other direction of adding the social safety needs, putting into the communities, inspiring people to help them get out of that cycle so that the later education and all this thing,
right?
Like if there was college and whatnot, then it would allow for people to get out of that cycle, and therefore the next generation. We're still reeling from like slavery times.
Do you know that
long ago,
Josiah, do you know that
yeah,
your country has the highest social mobility in the world?
Social mobility,
yeah, the ability, well, you're talking about like people being able to raise themselves up into higher positions and everything. You got the highest social mobility in the world in your country.
Well, and that's great. And
yeah, it's great.
There's definitely communities that have a hard time with that from those reasons that I was just talking about.
But they still do have the ability to get out of poverty and all that, more so than people anywhere else in any other kind of system.
Well, not necessarily, because like in Canada, for instance, you guys have free healthcare. Here, if you're sick and you don't have insurance, and you can go into poverty really fast because you can't afford your medical bills and you go bankrupt or whatever. Or if you have a chronic illness or anything like that, you don't have access to that. And then,
see, I'm totally open to
I feel like
learning about your healthcare issues down there in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I will learn a lot more about that. One thing I just want to say though is I think there's a tendency on the left to blame the system, and there's other explanation, like other causal factors that are important, like human nature and biology are disregarded a lot, I think. And it's all stuff that's empirically, scientifically verified.
Human nature is violent. I think that is a mistaken viewpoint. It's like an old way of looking at it. I don't think we're born violent. I think the violence and the racism and all this stuff is ingrained into us through the system that we're all part of here.
I don't think that's what the science, the psychological science shows.
I think it is.
I think that like those are factors, but I think that the people who attribute it mostly or entirely to society, to the environment, are disregarding the very, very important contribution of human biology and human evolved psychology to the causes of things like violence.
So you're saying that
the human tendency to violence is a tendency that we have evolved as a species, and it's for many different reasons: competition over mates, just tribal warfare, scarce resources, things like that. It's just something we've evolved. We've evolved a fighting tendency.
It reminds me of the story Lord of the Flies, and
That's
What's
interesting. That's
interesting,
interesting.
what's interesting is that recently I came across an article about
Hmm.
the actual true story behind Lord of the Flies, and Lord of the Flies came out at a time when that type of thinking that humans are innately violent, that was
Yeah.
very strong, and that was like the prevailing view.
Yeah.
And the actual story of Lord of the Flies is happened in New Zealand, and these kids in this boarding school like snuck out at night, this big group of kids, and they got in this fishing boat to like go have fun and got caught in a storm, ended up on some remote island
Yeah.
out there and survived out there for a year, and they all cooperated really well, and they all got, they all just worked together
They didn't
to
kill the
survive.
little fat one with glasses?
No, no, not at all. There was no violence. They all survived.
Wait a
And one
minute.
broke his
Seriously? That's a
leg, and they
crazy
like,
story.
and they made a splint and everything like this. And so it just goes to show like that was like, that's like this,
The counter to the
like
to the to the
that's like the true story behind like this idea that we're innately violent. In actuality, I think in times of stress, people come together a lot more. You see it after like major natural disasters and stuff. After 9/11, everybody came together, all this stuff. And
to coalitionally unite against the terrorists.
yeah, well, that was it. Not necessarily just that, in support of the people
Of
who
course.
lost people, and in support of like helping recover all this stuff. Um,
Yeah. I'm not
I
trying to
think,
make a cartoon of humans as being evil, violent creatures either, right? I know about all the beauty
yeah.
and goodness and great stuff that's human as well.
Totally. And so I think we should promote that as much as possible. And we do that, like you get out what you put in. So we do that by, you know, okay, we have an issue. Like a lot of people that don't need to die
Hold
are
on.
dying.
I'm
And
sorry to interrupt, but I think we should. I want to make a comment about Lord of the Flies before we move on and move
go
past,
for it.
right? So,
Go for it.
one of the things that I've heard about lately is the concept that scapegoating is a recurring thing that's in human psychology.
Mm,
Scapegoating, right? So
yeah,
the story of them killing Piggy is the story of humans picking a scapegoat
yeah,
and killing him, and that does happen despite whatever you're saying about the true story of that being something different.
totally.
Humans have done that throughout history,
I
throughout
actually, I
religious
think that
history.
I think that's the ritual of war. I think it comes back to that psychologically as a scapegoat, as you know what a scapegoat. I mean, the scapegoat is actually like, the goat that they purposely have this slow goat so that the other ones can get away or whatever. That one gets attacked, but the ritual of war, I think, comes about of like needing to like get out this violent urge in some way or something like that. But I'll say with scapegoating, I'll see it with like Trump saying the invaders are coming from Mexico, or the protesters are the invaders, and or the rapists or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's this way to say, don't look at me, look, that's your problem over there. These brown people in this other country, they're the ones that are going to come kill us. We got to go kill them. And that's like, to me, it's just so fucking pointless and just causes more chaos in the world and causes so much more pain and suffering in the world than if we didn't fucking do that.
But okay, but maybe you're right. Maybe there's a bit of scapegoating as an element to that. But maybe that's because there's some actual evil that's a real problem, and the evil is in here, but the evil is also out there, and it needs to be kept in check out there and in here.
Yeah, so you do that by blowing up a bunch of innocent civilians with drones and shit.
Yeah, but
Like, no,
what about the whole story?
no,
What about the
that
fact
is
that
causing
you're
more
also
terror.
blowing up
That is terror.
ISIS? What about the fact that you're also blowing up ISIS? Like, you can't
But you're
ignore
not.
that
ISIS is
fact.
probably bigger now than they were before, and I think they're backing
No, they
Trump.
were crushed. They were crushed as far as I know.
Yeah. And or Al Qaeda is backing Trump, or some one of these guys. Anyways, like, it's just it's a ploy. It's a way to continue to sell weapons and to take resources and to gain control. We have military bases in fucking like you know, almost every country in the world. And
think about what I said though, like that there is violent, dangerous, evil impulses in everyone, right? And so there is a lot of danger in the world, and maybe it's something that you don't like, that violence is being done out there, people are being bombed, etc. And it's not just brown people. It's not just brown people either. There's the Americans have fought wars with all kinds of white people too.
sure, they like to fight the wars.
Well, yeah.
I don't I don't buy that people are innately evil, and I think that we're programmed. We're obviously programmed. You have to admit that you have a program. I mean, we're all raised in a certain way. We see different things and we have different experiences. This programs us, and a lot of what we see is we get through the media and the people that we are having our social circles and our friend circles and all this kind of stuff. So depending on how that is, you're going to see things probably in a different way, and it might be hard to escape that and look outside of that. I agree that I have that too. I'm not saying that I don't have my views because of, you know, how I was raised and what I've seen. And I don't think that continual war helps anybody. I think it's very expensive, and I think there's so much better ways to spend that money than on death and destruction. And even if we had a military that like fucking built hospitals in Yemen or something, you know, instead of blowing up hospitals in Afghanistan, you know, that would create so much of a goodwill in those countries, create more of a better view of America, instead of being the terrorists or the, you know, the evil infidels or whoever. You know, more people will see this country as someone who's using, like, imagine just as a person, if you had so much strength and power and you walked around and like, fuck with me and see what happens, you know, and you know you could kick anybody's ass, and and like, you and the other strong people, the other people have big militaries, are also like walking around surrounding you going like, just fucking try us, motherfucker, you know, as opposed to being like, okay, I have all this strength and power and I can use these resources in order to like help the
But what if it's both? What if it's both though? Like you got to look at the other side. So there's this guy Jocko Willink. He's I think a SEAL, maybe SEAL or Marine or whatnot. And you know, you can watch him on podcasts talking about how like people don't understand what the military is doing out there. And we do that stuff in other countries. We do help build them into better places. We want democracy around the world. We don't want these despotic like types of places, because they're bad for the people.
Take out democratically elected leaders in Central and South America and install like dictators. We want people who support American business and American.
Send me some stuff on that, because like I said, I'm not the master of American history and American military.
Honduras, kind of recently.
Honduras,
and that's why there's a lot of, you know, hardships in a lot of these places is from the financial terrorist acts of U.S. and to control the natural resources of the place, to give them to U.S. business interests, you know, and instead of nationalizing them or whatever, you know, it's these finite resources and the control of those. So, yeah.
Yeah, but so there's like I do understand your perspective about you know, we grow up and we imitate what's around us, and if there's you know, violence and these things, then we'll imitate that. Absolutely, I think we have that. But I think now that, because I've been studying psychology, as I mentioned, right, and I'm very interested in really actually getting down to the roots of this stuff, the roots of violence, the roots of like actual evil things. Well, why? Like, what is that about, right? I really want to understand it. And so there's a book that I have. It's called The Blank Slate: The Modern Denial of Human Nature, and something else. But it's basically it's a scientist who goes into the fact that we actually do have a nature, and we have tendencies that are evolved. Like our brains, we're extremely complex and complicated, and we have a lot of potential for different ways of being, right? But we also have basically programs that are evolved. And I've read a lot about evolutionary biology and psychology. And, you know, like animals, there's no question that they all have instincts that make them do the things that they do, right? We don't really question that. They're pretty much all instinct. And then human beings, we do have a range of potential behaviors and whatnot, a wide range. But at the same time, we do have these tendencies which are evolved. And
Yeah,
it's quite incredible once you get into like different types of research that have been done. Like, I'm not an expert on this literature yet, but I want to be. So
I love human development and psychology too. So yeah, I'll see if I can find that book. Sounds interesting. You should watch this movie. Or have you ever seen the movie Human Nature?
I know.
It's good. It's a comedy. It's got Tim Robbins in it. It's a little bit older, from like early 2000s. It's good, but it's all on that. They find a wild, I won't tell you too much, but they find a wild man, somebody raised by wolves. And then Tim Robbins is a researcher that is trying to teach mice table manners. And so then he tries to like tame this wild man. And just watch it. It's hilarious. I really
Sounds good.
it. And it's right up that kind of thought, that thought plane of like, I think that, for me, I look at our level of consciousness as egocentric. And so, for instance, and through our development, from an infant to an adult, you go through different developmental stages of consciousness. Like when you're first born, you have a certain state of consciousness. You don't have the separation of me and the environment. And then you start to separate that. That's when you get into like your terrible twos and you're testing everything and testing your boundaries. And then when you're like a teenager, you get into like wanting to belong to some group or some kind of group identity and belong in some way, typically, and then you get to this adult stage and where we're stuck, or where we're at as a species, I would say would be the egocentric stage, where I'm the center of my universe. Everything I see and experience, I'm going to believe, and I'm going to make my own opinion. And, I have a certain identity in order, like, this is me. And especially and then you have another layer of identity with your online persona and your Facebook profile. But here's my Josiah. This is what he believes. I have a version of a statue of you, and I'm relating to that version of you because I can't truly know you as you know you, and in this way. So this stage, there's a lot of fear of losing our identity, fear of like, and we identify with what we have. And so I identify with my social status and with my socioeconomic status and with what I do. And so if somebody takes that from me, it's very painful and I have a strong reaction because it feels like it's taking a part of me. So if somebody wants to say my ideas are stupid, I feel like they're saying I'm stupid, therefore my ego statue is getting diminished in some way, and I'm going to have a certain reaction of like, no, fuck you.
And again, I would say that's human nature, natural tendency to be that.
But that's not, so humans, I feel like we're these special creatures that can go from we're animals and we're gods in this way. So what's behind the patterns or the personality is an awareness. There's an awareness of whatever it is, but there's an awareness. And so this awareness is so focused on myself, and mostly focused on myself and in my head and in my thoughts and all this kind of stuff. So there's levels beyond that are transpersonal, that are more universal. And so that would be more like understanding that, well, you and I are actually like not separate, we seem separate because we have different things that stimulate in different ways based on our own experiences and our own memories and everything like that. But we're both this connected in this awareness that's just being concentrated through our particular frequency or whatever. Not to get too hippie shit, but you know, the more that kind of stages beyond the egocentric level, because there are, just like when there was a paradigm shift from thinking the earth is the center of the universe to, oh, the sun is the center of our universe. You know, they had all these super complex things to describe how the stars moved to prove that the earth was the center of the universe, but it was really complex. And then once they decided and they realized the sun is the center of the universe, oh, all these things, they just move in these elliptical orbits like this, okay. And it was way simpler. In the same way, the paradigm shift going from I'm the center of the universe, this me, this my, you know, to, oh, like, there's just like this universal source and we're all like simply existing in it in this way. And then we'll be more inclined to go towards things that are more caring for others, social, like more socialist in that way of saying, okay, we don't want the suffering of people because we are those people. Doesn't matter that my skin color is different than them. Like, I can understand and have compassion for these people because I can understand that they're suffering and they could use this help in this particular way. So we could actually have the resources to do that. And until enough people start to think of like that, instead of this greed of these people who are billionaires and then gaming the system to get more and trying to hide it offshore so they don't lose it, like more money they can spend in fucking lifetimes.
Okay, but you're attributing motive to these billionaires, but do you have any specific billionaires in mind? Like,
I think
are you just making a judgment? Jeff Bezos?
No, Jeff Bezos comes to mind. He pays zero in income taxes.
Yeah.
He's the richest man on earth.
I know that there's some hostility.
Probably in a day than I will ever, probably in like an hour than I'll ever make in a lifetime.
I'm going to look into Jeff Bezos, what he actually does, who he actually is. I'm going to watch his interviews. I'm going to see if he's a demon or not.
He has enough money to snap his fingers and like solve hunger in Africa, you know? And like, why wouldn't you? If I had that much money, I'd be like, fuck yeah, like I can make some major shifts around here and for the better, instead of like having more money than you could ever possibly, your whole family for like fucking thousands of years will have enough money forever, as long as money is a thing. All right. And you could still give up like a large chunk of that shit and solve a lot of stuff. So that I don't really understand, but I think, well, I do. It has to do with that thing of like, I am the richest person. I need more because it's about this. It's like this cancer of ego in this way.
I don't know. I mean, like I've watched, some billionaires and they're not evil people. Like just because they have a lot of money, it could also be like that they end up using it in ways that continue to benefit the society. Like say that, do you think Jeff Bezos hasn't contributed any value to society?
I think that the amount he has given philanthropically.
No, I mean in creation of his business, the thing that he did that generated all that wealth for him.
No, it destroyed so many small businesses and bookshops.
Because it made things more efficient and easier for people, so they didn't have to go to those shops.
Which has taxed the mail system, which has created more carbon footprint in the world, which is, it's not.
So the question is Amazon evil?
Walmart is not a good thing. These aren't good things. These have just like, isn't it so much nicer to have like fucking mom and pop bookshops? I don't mind paying more and fucking having to go to the bookstore, because I much prefer that experience than I do, it's super, and I'm not saying I don't buy shit off Amazon. I stop for a little while and then sometimes I do. I really try to check myself because it is so fucking convenient. And
yeah, well, that's the point. So we live in a system that continuously makes things better, easier, more convenient.
No,
and then other people.
You could have a straw here and toilet robot,
Yeah, but you're looking at it in a cynical way instead of a positive way.
You don't have to move or do anything. You can just sit here and like you get sugar in your ears. It's amazing. And I'd be like, you need some of that stuff. You need some of that real world stuff. It's nice.
Well, that does. What if your time is freed up to go and actually explore nature? Like, what if it does lead to more freedom eventually? That'd be nice.
I'm not against technology. I'm against. I think that there is technological solutions that could benefit humanity, I'm pessimistic about it because I think about like what happened in the 70s when they started coming out with a lot more automation in factories, and they're like, dude, in a couple years, people are going to have to work 4 hours a day,
Right, didn't happen.
or whatever, or 3 days a week, because we have these robots that are doing all this stuff. Instead, people started working fucking longer hours and more.
15, only 15% of people who were in manufacturing ended up being effectively retrained for other jobs. That would, the government programs to retrain them had a 15% success rate.
Yeah, that's not very good either. Or
no,
is it? I don't know.
These are problems, right?
But it also shows that like it didn't because of capitalism, the negative side of capitalism, it just, people had to work longer and more, and still we have all this technology and we're still working harder and more. And now, maybe like the COVID, like having to do the Zoom, like remote work more, like I think that's going to stick around in the ethos of some of these places that are like, we don't need fucking meetings all the time. We can just do an email and we can do this remotely. That might stick around in a lot of places, and that's a good thing to me, because that's utilizing technology in order to be more efficient and not waste the energy of needing to have like an office or whatever. But
did you follow Andrew Yang at all? Like, what do you think of him?
Yeah, a little bit. He was like my third choice if I had a choice.
Yeah. What do you think of UBI?
I like UBI. I think it's a great idea. I think that the studies they've done have shown that it doesn't make people just like, oh, I'm going to be lazy and not do anything. It actually, when I think there's some kind of psychological thing that happens when you get something like a bonus or like something like money, which is energy or something like that, then you're like, oh, I want to give more, and it'll stimulate the economy more. It'll help people. The most vulnerable people. I'm all for it. I think it would be great. But
Andrew Yang was saying that when people, you can test someone's IQ and then give them a bill that they can't pay, and then test their IQ again, and it drops 15 points, a full standard deviation.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So the fact that we can't afford things like makes us dumber.
Makes us less productive, probably.
Less productive. Yeah. I mean, like when you can't pay your bills, I don't know if you know, but I know when I can't pay my bills or whatever, I'm way more stressed. I got more heavy on me, and like my mind is like, can't concentrate as much.
Yeah.
And so I could understand that. And that goes to show, again, back to that argument about like providing free housing and, making sure people can eat and this kind of stuff. That also, they've shown studies that when somebody has a roof over their head, it's drastically, I can't remember the percentage, but it drastically reduces like the amount of mental illness.
See, I know that we have affordable housing programs in Canada, but just the idea of free housing, like, it's not that it wouldn't be wonderful if everything could be free. It's just not that way, because somebody had to build that house, right? And the whole property rights thing that people who are pro-capitalism
but what if you could end tax loopholes and like
people
offshore
own that labor?
No, but what if you could end tax loopholes and there was actually the proper amount of money being taxed to the billionaire class, and that money was used to do free housing? So it's not like costing people more money.
Well, I've heard that the rich actually pay a lot in taxes.
They don't.
I've heard that they do, though. It seems like they don't, and it's often part of the rhetoric that they don't, but they pay a lot of taxes.
And like Donald Trump,
they bear the majority of the tax burden.
Donald Trump paid $750.
But that's not actually true. He paid millions all of those years in taxes.
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't. I'll fact check that for you. I'll show you the truth.
Yeah, I'll show you the truth too, because I'm
sure. Because I heard that's one thing, and that's not actually accurate. That's one. And
then why won't he release his tax return that every other president has done? He's been avoiding it this whole time, saying, "Oh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it." They're still working on it. It's bullshit. He's hiding something. Everybody fucking knows it. It's obvious.
Yeah, I'll look more into that.
Yeah. I'll show you too.
I heard that he did. He was able to show that he paid millions in taxes.
No, he definitely did not. He's been refusing to release his tax returns.
I'm aware of that. Yeah. But I've also been told that that's just a distraction. Like the whole Russia gate, the whole Russia thing was never true. That was all just a big.
It was definitely true. They didn't allow any witnesses to take the stand at the Senate hearing. He got impeached for it by the House, and then went to Senate that's controlled by the Republicans. and they didn't allow any witnesses. Why wouldn't they allow any witnesses if they weren't hiding anything? There's so many connections from Trump to Russia. It's fucking crazy. And he got all this money that was laundered through the Deutsche Bank from Russia. You can see these small banks that are mafia Russia owned or affiliated banks in Russia gave 300 something million to Deutsche Bank. And then immediately they gave Trump a loan when nobody else would give him any loans because he has so much money out in loans and is not good at paying his shit off and just tries to sue the banks every time or whatever. And so now he's got $421 million to private lenders that he won't say who they are, probably Russia affiliated. And that is a clear paper trail there.
They weren't able to pin anything on him. There was no evidence of conclusion.
Why wouldn't they allow any witnesses? They had plenty.
I don't know. I'll look into that. I didn't see that, but
I watched it. It was ridiculous. They had people that were like, I was part of this. I want to talk, and they didn't allow them at all. You know?
Okay, because what I've heard though is that all of that stuff they knew from a long time ago. Like initially, they got some report that maybe there was some collusion with Russia. And then they knew, like there's proof that they knew from early on that was all fake. There was no collusion. There was nothing. And they could never, like, it was just a charade.
I'll send you a
charade.
shit ton of sourced material on
Let's do it. We'll exchange information on that. Yeah.
Okay. To me, it's quite clear. But yeah, I'll definitely send that to you. Make a note.
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, all of this stuff. So Jacob Blake was another one. That guy was guilty. That guy was reaching for a knife. That was a justified shooting.
He was shot in the back in front of his kids.
That was a justified shooting. 100%.
That was the guy that got shot in the back.
100%. He reached for a knife. He was resisting arrest.
No.
He was walking away from officers, ignoring instructions.
That guy, for one, it's fucking sickening that he got shot in the back in front of his little kids. Okay. He got shot in the back, so obviously he had his back to the police when they were shooting, so he was retreating from them. And that they said, "Oh, he's reaching for a knife."
I have to clear your perception of this one because you're just completely wrong.
Kenosha outrage too. Then the Kenosha.
I know, and that's what I mean by it's all based on lies.
No, you're totally wrong.
Not at all.
You're totally wrong. You're watching some bullshit out there.
Not at all. Why do you think that guy was at his ex-girlfriend's house that day, even though she had a restraining order against him?
It doesn't matter. He doesn't deserve to die for that reason. He got shot in the back 3 times in front of his fucking kids. It's wrong. It
was a justified shooting.
No,
when you have multiple police officers,
he was about to kill the police that were behind him.
Yes.
Like he was gonna turn around and grab a knife, turn around, and so they had to shoot him in the back right there. Right.
They had to shoot him when he ignored their instructions and grabbed a knife. Yes, that's justified. I would have done the same thing in a second, in a heartbeat.
Well, then you'd be wrong.
No, I wouldn't, because that's what you do. All right. Do you know what that guy had arrest warrants for?
I don't.
You don't? That's interesting.
Does it matter?
Yes.
He doesn't deserve to get shot in the back. Like
nobody deserves to get. Nobody deserves.
No, there's something called
to get shot, but if it's justified, it's justified.
No, there's you go through trial in this country. You are innocent until proven guilty.
Dude,
what happened?
What do you think happened there? What do you think happened there? What about listening to police officers when they give you instructions and not walking away from them and reaching for your knife inside your vehicle?
How do you know he was reaching for his knife?
Because he was. The knife was found on the driver's side floor of the car.
So that doesn't mean he's reaching for it. He might have just been.
He was tased before that happened. Do you know that?
Well, then
and then he walked away, casually walked away from officers. He was resisting arrest.
You're innocent until you're proven guilty in this country.
Yes, you are.
What they say you've done or whatever, it doesn't even matter, and that's why I say
if you're a threat to. Also, there was something about him like having threatened his children before. The cop was protecting himself and the children.
Dirt on these people were like, oh, he got arrested for weed like 8 years ago. He's a drug dealer. That's what they do.
Let me tell you what actually this guy had done. Okay, he had gone into his girlfriend's house while she was sleeping at 6 a.m. sexually assaulted her by putting his fingers in her vagina while her daughter slept next to her in the bed. He had taken her keys and her bank card and fled with her vehicle, spent her money. That's what he was being, that's what he had on his arrest warrant. He also had multiple gun charges. He had resisting arrest in the past. He had all this stuff. This guy was a criminal and a sexual
I'm
predator.
I'm not saying he wasn't, but that's why you go that's why you go to jail and get arrested and go to a fucking trial. They're not going to give the guy the death penalty for that.
So what would be a justified shooting in your mind?
Somebody who is about to who has a gun, and is going to shoot the police or shoot somebody else. That would be justified when their life is in threat, like it's actually threatened.
When you're outside of a vehicle and a guy reaches into a vehicle where you can't see the inside of the vehicle and he's ignoring your orders and he reaches in there and I think the cop says that he jerked to turn around as well before he opened fire. But the life of the cop can be assumed to be in mortal danger when the guy reaches into the vehicle and ignores that is an absolutely justified shooting.
No.
He was actually reaching for a weapon. That was the reality of the situation.
I'll have to look that up because I think a lot of the news that you're giving me is very biased and all has somebody like, oh, they had a weapon or they were this bad person. And so I know that guy had some sexual assault stuff on him. I remember hearing that.
The 911 call was by his sexual assault victim saying, he's at my house. He's not supposed to be here. I have a restraining order against him.
Yeah, well, that doesn't mean you get shot by the police, man, in the back. You know,
if you resist arrest and the cop feels his life is in danger, then he's justified.
See, everybody's resisting arrest. That's what they use. They're like, why are you arresting me? You're resisting arrest.
Do you know what the other side of that is? The other side of that is where a guy pretends like says, oh, stop hitting me, stop hitting me, and this officer's attacked me, dropping to the ground like George Floyd. George Floyd was the opposite of that.
Yeah, stop faking that gunshot, man. No, all these guys have gotten tased. They were getting beat the fuck up out of a group of police, or they have like a number of police around them.
I'm going through these cases with you one by one. Who haven't we talked about yet?
Well, how about
Martin, Michael
the
Brown.
first one that I remember was Eric Gardner. He was selling loose cigarettes and got put in a chokehold and then murdered, and they had that all on videotape. And the only person arrested was the person who videotaped it.
Okay, yeah, I remember hearing both of these names. Those are two that I didn't look into. I made sure that I was well versed on the more recent ones that have fueled all of these protests.
Have we missed any others? I remember Michael Brown walking across the street. They got him on jaywalking and they shot him. That was a hands up, don't shoot.
Yeah.
Breonna Taylor was
Taylor with guns.
Breonna Taylor was an EMT in her bed asleep.
EMT, really?
Yeah.
That's an EMT?
What? Because somebody had a gun? I mean,
there's two guns. There's an AR-15 and a handgun.
So maybe they were legally registered guns.
What about this one? She's a drug dealer.
No, she's not. That doesn't mean she's a drug dealer.
Her texts mean she's a drug dealer. And the fact that her boyfriend was a drug dealer. That's why they were going to her house to arrest them for drug dealing.
Okay, right. They were going to her house to look for a guy that they already had in jail.
Nope. It was a warrant for she was on the warrant. Breonna Taylor was on the warrant.
She was not.
I can prove that to you.
She was not on the warrant. They didn't have her on the warrant. That's bullshit.
Okay, I'll prove it.
They had a warrant for a guy that they already had in jail, actually.
No, it was them. They were on the warrant. I can show that to you.
No, it was not. You're wrong.
Okay, hey, listen. I might be wrong, but let's fact check each other.
Yeah,
I'll send you what I have.
It clearly.
Well, because you've been lied to, though. They're lying.
No, I saw it on multiple news organizations, but yeah, I'll send that.
Yeah, because they're all lying. They're all lying. The media is a joke right now. Trump is justified in calling them fake news.
No, he's not.
He is. They're completely.
He just uses that term. He's the fucking liar, and you're fucking ridiculous, man.
No,
it's crazy.
The media is a joke right now.
It makes me smile just how how off you are. And you say you're a centrist, but you're
I'll show
like
you.
starting some far right stuff here.
It's fucking true, man. CNN is an absolute joke. They're just lying about everything. They're lying about Breonna Taylor.
Fox is too, you know?
I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it.
Fox is as well. I'm not a huge CNN
I don't
fan
watch
or
Fox.
anything now.
I'll tell you who I watch. I watch Dave Rubin. I watch Ben Shapiro. I watch Joe
Ben
Rogan.
Shapiro is a fucking twit, man.
No, he's a very intelligent man. And I watch Tim Pool.
That guy is.
I watch Tim Pool.
Yeah, and Tim Pool, I already showed you some stuff on Tim Pool.
Yeah, you sent me 4 things. Do you realize that two of them were parodies?
No.
You should read them. They're hilarious.
Maybe
they're parodies. They're making fun of woke smear campaigns. Two of the 4 articles you sent me were fake. They were jokes.
I don't think so.
They were.
That guy. I mean,
you don't think so? Check them out, man. They're hilarious.
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just did some like quick research on the cities and shit. But
of what?
I was talking about Tim Pool. I just looked up and Googled his name, and I saw like the Wikipedia on him. I see that. And
the Rational Wiki is not Wikipedia.
What is Rational Wiki?
It's skeptics saying that certain things are false. So if anything is on there, they're saying this is bullshit. That's what Rational Wiki is for. It's for calling things bullshit.
Yeah.
And the other thing you sent me was a Medium article, which was an actual smear campaign against Pool, but the other 2 were jokes.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Breonna Taylor. Oh yeah, arrest warrant.
And I watched the videos because if you can't believe your eyes, then you're being completely gaslit.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like with things about Trump, for instance, like people are like, oh, they took it out of context. I'll watch the whole video. I'm like, nope, it was actually.
You are taking it out of context.
No, not if you watch the whole video.
I did watch the whole videos. I made sure to do that. Because last time you said that he called all Mexicans rapists, and he didn't.
Yeah, and that was out of context, or no?
Absolutely. Yeah, he was calling the bad people, the MS-13 gangsters that are coming into the country, rapists.
No, he wasn't. He said
he was talking about illegal immigrants, the bad ones.
Illegal immigrants are invaders. They're animals.
No.
And I saw that speech.
He said the bad ones.
He wasn't referring to just the bad ones.
Yes, he was
saying you're all bad ones.
He absolutely wasn't.
Okay, so why was he locking up all the kids and women and everybody else who obviously isn't part of the bad ones? And taking
I started to look into that. First of all, I heard that some of those photos are from Obama administration. Obama did it more than. Okay, I heard that he's not actually separating kids from their families. That's wrong. That's false. I'll look into it. I'll look into it more.
Yeah. I mean,
I heard that they're not allowed to do that. So the reason why you see them in cages is because they have to be kept with their parents and they don't separate them. But I'm going to look into it.
From their parents. They're not.
I'll look into it. Yeah. I didn't fully research that. I need to. I will.
Yeah. I don't know how much longer I have to do this, Kellen.
Well, I know, but yeah.
Well, what else do we have to clear up? Because I feel like we have very different viewpoints on some stuff, and I don't know if we're
like what though? Like what? What don't you understand about the fact that Jacob Blake was justified, or Breonna Taylor, even though it's a tragedy that she got shot and killed, and she wasn't the one firing at the officers at that time, but she was in the hallway with her boyfriend who shot a cop in the leg.
Just the fact that that's how you see it, I can't even begin to have a conversation.
Why?
Because it's so far different from how I see it.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, there's so much about that case that you don't know. They were there because she was involved in a drug dealing.
No, they were there for a warrant for another person, and not accurate. They bust into a place and start shooting.
Not accurate. And I'll send it to you. I will.
That's the problem. Is you're so sure about your news sources.
I am pretty sure about that source. Yeah.
But no, you already said you think and you can't remember on that warrant thing. So I will show you the truth of that.
No. I know that they were there for Breonna Taylor and her boyfriend. I know that for a fact.
No, that's wrong.
Okay. Well, I will show you. I'll show you. I want us to get down to what's true about these cases, right? So I think that all of
because we have completely different information.
No.
And so
We can
I don't
we
see, and
can
then,
figure out what's true.
basically we're like, you making a statement that every police killing of a black person that's been prominent has been justified that you've seen is just like, I feel like a blanket statement that I can't relate to.
Well,
And like,
I'll tell you what. I'm not saying George Floyd was justified. I don't know what Derek
you
Chauvin
do
had in his
actually
mind when he
not
had his
think that
knee on his neck.
you don't think that there's systematic racism in this country? I mean, you're in
Not at all.
Canada.
No,
So
not since
I
1968. Not since the Civil Rights Act.
No, you're fucking insane if that's how you think. Because
Yeah.
you think the Civil Rights Act happened and then there was no racism anymore?
In the system,
and,
I'm not saying individuals weren't racist.
Okay, that got all the racism out of the system. That's fucking ridiculous, Kellen. And I'm sorry to get like loud here, but that is insane. And watch the rest of that movie 13th because
I
it
will
educate
I'll finish
you a
it.
little bit.
Okay, I get it. And I was learning things from that. I was learning about how horrible the racist past in the United States was. Like,
It
it's
still
awful.
exists today. It still exists today.
I'm sure racism does still exist, but I don't think it exists in the system. I think the Civil Rights Act made it illegal.
Yeah, illegal. The justice system doesn't work in that way. It's a all around and racist system. It locks way more of a percentage of brown people and Latino people up than white people, even though they make up a much smaller percentage. I know you're going to.
Well, let's talk about the statistics because I went actually deep into those statistics.
And that is also false. I've seen those statistics, and it doesn't actually relate or work. There's a I don't remember the critique of it exactly offhand, but I've seen that, and I've seen that it was proven to be like misguided.
Did you see the comment on our last video where the guy sent the table 43 of the FBI crime statistics?
Actually didn't see it.
Yeah. But anyway, I did look into that, and I looked at other related statistics. And let's see what I got here. So first of all, here's an interesting fact. Did you know that a police officer is 18 times more likely to be killed by a young black male than they are to be killed by an officer?
1 second. Hi.
Yeah.
I'm on a call right now. Y'all are welcome to hang out in there. Well, I won't deny that, but I'm sure that has something to do with the whole fucking system that is what we're part of, and how it treats black males and how it locks them up more and how it profiles them more, keeps them locked in this fucking system, like harasses them. And then there's, this ingrained system that pushes them towards violence or gang violence.
Do you know the origin? Because I don't think this is true, and I think it comes out of basically a Marxist like leaning, a Marxist standpoint. I think that's where all this comes from. Do you know the origin of critical race theory?
Origin, I've heard the term before. I think it might be a racist thing, but I can't remember.
No, it's not. No. Critical race theory is basically it's an ideology that says that like it's all tied up with like the intersectionalism and like okay, so it says that critical race theory. I'm getting tired too, but critical race theory is it has the idea in it that all interactions are based on power, and it's the power differentials between people of different races. Like, it's where you get all this white privilege talk and all this,
Yeah. Oh yeah, okay.
That's critical race theory, and that's rooted in Marxism. That's like back in
You're saying there's no such thing as white privilege?
No. Yeah, no, I
You're
don't.
not saying that, or you are saying?
I am saying that. Yeah, there's no white privilege. White privilege is a Marxist lie.
No, that's bullshit. It's the white privilege is just to explain it, since it's the fact that because I have white skin, I'm not as likely to be discriminated against in the system, in the workplace, by the police, in health care.
Exactly. And so I think that's all made up, and it comes from an intention to divide people, because ultimately it's rooted in the revolutionaryism. Like these people, they think they're anti-capitalist, and that's where all this comes from. Like all critical race theory is doing is creating racial tension. It's creating xenophobia. And
I see what you're saying. I disagree.
So here, like there's a piece by a guy named Andrew Sullivan on so wokeness.
I'm here.
Yeah, I made a podcast in the past about wokeness, called it Toxic Wokeness, and it's based on critical race theory, queer theory, all these critical theories, which James Lindsay, in his new book Cynical Theories, well, he refers to them as cynical theories, right? Because they're a very negative, cynical view of human relations, human interaction, right?
Kind of like that all humans are violent by nature, like negative like that, or
it's not that we're violent by nature. It's that the violence is in our nature, and yes, we do need a society with a working police force in order to prevent mass amounts of violence.
Right, I'm just saying, it's funny that you're saying that the critical
theories are cynical.
Are cynical and negative.
Well, yeah, because I don't think that the human capacity for violence is a negative thing. I think that violence to defend yourself, a little bit of competition. I like fighting as a sport. I like mixed martial arts. I train in mixed martial arts.
That's different than
that's violence, and that's violence that's in human nature.
War and murder. That's like sport.
I'm not saying those things are good. Those things are bad, and they need to be prevented at any cost. So like the thing is, I have a fear of communism and the potential for things to break down and for communist ideology.
Last time you experienced communism in your life?
What's that?
When's the last time you had to deal with communism in your life?
I read Solzhenitsyn's The Gulag Archipelago. I know a lot about what happened in China, in Cambodia, in Russia.
In the Western world here, is there really a threat to fucking communism right now? Is that the biggest threat?
I believe there is, and I believe it's a bigger threat.
Way bigger threat than communism, or any of the other things. Communism is not on your doorstep. Hey, we're going to turn you communist real quick. Like that's not. I see things
as a lot more fragile than that. And I see the woke movement as having communist roots, having Marxist roots. So you call yourself a democratic socialist.
Word. These Marxists and communists are like what they say socialists too. These are boogie words, or Antifa, or whatever.
I don't think of socialist as a boogie word, because I've always thought of Canada as a socialist country in terms of. But democratic socialist, let me just get this straight. You do want markets. You do want capitalism. You just want more social programs, including universal health care.
I want
programs to help impoverished communities, etc.
I want to fix the wealth inequality, that all the newly created wealth and everything like that is going to the top, and they're not getting taxed properly. Because
so do you want to decrease inequality or eliminate inequality?
I want to, by eliminating inequality does not mean to make everybody perfectly equal. I mean that the wage gap and everything has gotten so extreme, and I want to balance out the new money, all the money that's generated by the wealth of what the people put in through all the workers and everything like that, because you rely on all the lower class workers and everybody doing their thing.
But what about negotiating for your wage? What about negotiating for it if you feel like you're contributing more value?
It's not trickling down, and it's not coming back down, and that's why we have a lot of the social problems we have.
But people have the freedom to do what labor they choose to do.
Not everybody does. Not everybody can just.
Well, they all do.
I'm gonna go down to the job store and get myself one of them jobs, that are so plentiful and everybody can get. You want to do something? No, it's not like that for some people in certain.
It's certainly, it's not perfect. But what could you have instead of capitalism? What could you have instead of a market system?
Comes in. It's because you have this idea that everybody would have the same ability as you, and the same mindset as you, even the same confidence as you, or the same resources as you, and you're totally unaware that there's a lot of other people that don't have that, or weren't raised like that.
I think it's racist to attribute anything about that to race. Like, I think that's racist.
Well, I think it's more class than race, but it happens to, the system has happened to keep more of the minority African Americans in the lower class socioeconomic level purposely by putting them in there and discriminating them again against them.
But I think
and
to make it about
harassing
race
their
is so
community.
wrong. It's so wrong. So like here's what Andrew Sullivan says about wokeness, right? He says it's the reasons why it's accelerating its virulent spread. So it compares it to a virus, a mind virus. Okay. He says it's because it's emotionally compelling. It's easy. It cites structural racism as the main or only reason for racial disparities. So that's what it does. It's so easy to say people are in those impoverished conditions because of racism, because of
That's a
like, and other
reductionist
people are in
view.
other conditions because of whiteness.
Well, that's all very reductionist way of looking at it, and I'm
No,
not
that's
saying.
reductionist, but
No,
yeah. So
I know that
yeah,
what you're claiming is very reductionist, and
yeah.
I'm not saying that that's all the issues would be solved by that, and I don't think anybody is. They're saying that's a major part of the picture here, and that's something we can
I
see
think
very
it's a very
clearly.
small part, and a part that
No, it's a huge part, and it exists,
I don't think
and
so.
so
I don't think racism is a
we
good
could
way to think about
help
that.
with a lot of this by um, starting there. So yeah, I disagree with that statement.
Yeah, so like I think there's a lot of different factors for a lot of different reasons, and okay, so like yes, things are complicated and nuanced. So racism might have influenced these things. I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did. I'm sure it does. But if you there is actual science that has been done, and then for me, the most reasonable people, the most the psychological scientists that I respect a lot and listen to say that it's not the biggest factor in so many different ways, right? Like just the fact of like single parent families in Black communities has a lot to do with things, and things like
Totally.
community
And why are they
leadership
single parent?
lacking and whatnot.
Why are they single parent? Sometimes because the father got locked up in jail for some petty shit that is not that normally wouldn't even be an issue or doesn't need to be take them away from their family and put them in jail. Now this kid's being raised without a parent. And so that kid's going to go into some kind of life of crime or street or whatever. He's
So
going
here's the
to
thing.
have a baby and get arrested, and the cycle
They
repeats.
can't lie about arrest statistics, right? About the races of people being arrested. I don't see such a disparity between white arrests and Black arrests. It's not that great. It's higher proportionally between the white population and the Black population in the United States, but it's not that much higher.
No, it is. Watch
It's not.
13. Watch
It's okay.
13.
I'll tell you what.
Watch that
It's
movie.
double, but
Double?
yeah. So that
And you're
means
saying
that
that's how much more?
20 or what is it?
And they have
There's
way less of a percentage of the population?
There are
Or
2 Black arrests for every 3 white arrests, while there is only 1 Black person for every 4 white people. So more Black people proportionally are arrested than white people, but they're arrested for these crimes. Like you realize that the murder, like you think they're just making up the fact that
no,
Black people
actually, I
committed
heard a
murders and
statistic that's like
robbery and whatnot.
white people are just as likely to have drugs on them than black people, yet like 20 less times less likely to be arrested for it or some shit like that.
Okay, yeah. So
Um,
I'll look more into that because I saw where they were getting into the crack thing where they were trying to put Black people
well,
in jail.
the whole crack thing was also racist. They would
Yeah.
lock people up for crack, which was primarily used on in inner city black neighborhoods, and they would throw them in jail for years, while people in the 80s were getting arrested for cocaine, which is more of like a white collar, white person party drug, and they were getting misdemeanors, not even going to jail. Again, over and over and over, you see
You know what
this.
I found interesting?
And
Well,
also
no, because I looked at all of the arrest
crack
statistics.
into these neighborhoods through the government in order to fund the Contras. They were bringing cocaine in and dropping it in these neighborhoods to create drug epidemics and get people hooked on crack, and meanwhile using that money to fund black operations to counter the Contras and overthrow a democratically elected president.
I'll look into that.
That was Bush Reagan.
Yeah. So one thing I found kind of funny, actually, is that white people, the one thing that white people are proportionally more likely to be arrested for is arson, DUI, and drunkenness. White people proportionally are arrested more for those things.
Makes sense. White
Yeah,
people like to
but
burn
black
shit.
people are arrested for robbery 20% more overall than white people, and 20% more African Americans arrested for murder than white Americans overall. So the idea too is that, and these police incidents, right? So yes, there were 9 unarmed black men shot by police. And one thing you got to know about that too is that just because he's unarmed doesn't mean he wasn't a threat to the officer. If you're a police officer, you know that. Like when somebody's reaching into their car, they have their hands out of your view, and it takes nothing. It takes nothing for them to reach out of that car and shoot you with a gun.
Running away from the police. They're running away from the police. You don't shoot
That's not necessarily true. You don't know what happened in those 9 cases, and neither do I.
Well, in the
9 people, and there were 19 white unarmed people that year killed by police. And so you have an example of a thing like George Floyd.
No, but like you said, the proportion of the white population to the black population, it has way more. And so I wonder what.
No. There's 1 black person for every 4 white people.
Right. So what's that account to when you have 9
and 19? Yes, it's higher among. But the police are more likely to have interactions with black people, which means they're getting called more often for incidents involving black people.
No, they also racially profile. They just go and they harass these people on the street. Stop and frisk was a fucking thing. Read about it.
Yeah.
And how it disproportionately affected black communities completely because there's an inherent racism in the police force from this kind of brotherhood mentality and infiltration of white supremacists into the police forces, which was an active strategy.
Show me that. What is that? Where do you get that information?
I'll have to send that to you, but I read up on it before.
Yeah, show me.
Yeah, and it's like there's.
So because of this anti-police rhetoric, which is based on lies about these recent police incidents, there's been 900 police casualties during these.
They're not lies at all.
What do you mean they're not lies at all? I just told you a lot of things you didn't know about these cases and falsehoods.
Yeah, but that doesn't change the fact that unarmed people are getting killed by police. Unarmed black people are getting killed by police, and I don't believe your facts that you've given me until I actually
look into it.
I'll look into it. And
which unarmed people? There were 9, right? There were 9 unarmed black men. That should be expected in a population of 44 million black people.
I'm going to find you the full list because it's way more than 9.
Like police make mistakes. Police make mistakes, and it's expected that they're going to make a few mistakes per year. That's got to be expected amongst both white people and black people, and they just happen to proportionally respond to more
use of force. You can see. Look, okay, I want to look at just how they treated Kyle Rittenhouse, for instance, and it's not just black and white.
You don't know why they let him walk by. You don't know why. That's an assumption. That's a big assumption. Big assumption to say.
Okay, when they arrested Dylan Roof, the guy who shot up the black church and killed 9 people in a mass shooting, very gentle with him.
Dylan who?
Dylan Roof. He shot up the Charleston black church in Charleston.
Okay.
And they were super gentle with him, and then there's a number of things like that. And then how they treated that, what's his name? Jacob Rolanol. He's the guy that you were talking about, shot the right-wing protester. He was a left-wing, self-proclaimed.
Oh, Michael Rhino.
Rhino. So he also claimed self-defense, by the way, after I read
that didn't happen. That wasn't self-defense. He's on video. He's on video waiting behind a building while his accomplices are beside the building. When the 2 people, the one guy in a Patriot prayer hat, walk by, he comes up behind them, gun in hand, and they say, right there. We got 2 right here. He says, right there, right there. The guy turns around, pulls his bear mace. He executes him, shoots him twice in the chest. That guy was an evil bastard. Definitely
send me that because I haven't seen it. Yeah. It says, send me that if you remember. But what I saw was the response. And the response.
You heard something from the New York Times, which is the most biased news organization I've seen.
I saw Trump even say it. And I didn't watch the New York Times.
I know what Trump said.
I saw this on Democracy Now. He claimed after the fact, I sent those guys out there to fucking basically murder that guy.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
And they did do that. The guy, you said before, I think he was armed. I think he fired first. No, his gun was holstered. He did have a gun in his car.
He did have a gun in his pants, in his belt.
Okay, well, it was holstered. And
if you reach for a gun, the police can shoot you.
They didn't announce it all
in a justified way.
Eyewitnesses say that they just.
According to the New York Times, which is the most biased news organization I've seen.
Eyewitnesses. I didn't get this on the New York
According
Times.
to witnesses interviewed by the New York Times, which is the most biased news organization.
Now from witnesses interviewed through, whoever. But hold on, what was I going to send you?
That article that you sent me was quoting the New York Times, which I've already read the New York Times article. I know what they say the witnesses said about the event.
Okay.
The witnesses who probably didn't even witness it, but just happened to be close by and come out when they heard gunshots. Of course they didn't see it. So the New York Times reports, oh, they didn't see him reach for a gun. Yeah, that's because they didn't fucking see anything.
Okay, well, I'm just saying it's a drastic difference in how they treated.
New York Times is a lie.
I just walked away, go home. And then the other guy, they showed up and killed him without a trial or anything. So,
okay, I'll tell you what Trump said, because he was misquoted. What you heard was a misquote. And I've seen Democracy Now! And I've been looking at it a little bit. I've seen them writing biased things.
Tell me. Okay,
so what did you think he said? He said, they knew who he was. They didn't want to arrest him. 15 minutes later, it was over. Is that what you heard?
Yeah, but no, then he bragged about how he.
Do you know what he meant by they knew who he was? They didn't want to arrest him. They were talking about the police in that area, the Portland police. So they were the ones who knew who he was and didn't want to arrest him. He wasn't saying that the U.S. Marshals didn't want to arrest him, so they executed him. That's a misquote. That's an out of context lie about Donald Trump.
But he was saying that he sent the U.S. Marshals there to take care of him.
Of course he did. Why wouldn't he when they're not arresting this guy who executed a man in the street? He needs to do way more of that, I swear. I hope he gets reelected, and I hope that he you know why? Because the Democrats are not charging people like him. The Democrats are not charging people like him.
Biden people. You're not a centrist at all. You're a right winger, and it's cool, but just like be.
I'm not a right winger. I am dispositionally. You know what? I listen to right-wing people.
You wanted to label it like BLM supporter versus Trump supporter. And I said,
right, and being a person who supports the re-election of Donald Trump doesn't make you a right-winger, and I'm not a right-winger. I'm a naturally, no, I'm not. No, it doesn't.
Super far right if you support Trump. Like, I don't even say
that's not true. Right. That's not true. You've just been lied about Trump, but so much. You know, he's been a pretty good president. He's been a pretty good president, but you don't hear that from the left-wing media.
Terrible, like as bad as you can get. Like,
no, he's been good.
Somebody doing a worse job, Kellen.
No, his economy has never been better. Unemployment has never been lower before COVID.
Oh God, he said pedal to the metal to try to fucking boost up the economy this whole time, even pre-COVID. Basically, you're running out of fucking gas. You're slamming the gas pedal down, and you're saying, look, we're keeping up with how it was. Look, it's slightly going faster as you're using up all the fucking resources there are. And then COVID hits. He does a fucking horrendous job with that. And how can you even begin to
I heard that actually COVID, the stuff that happened with COVID were not so much his fault as they were the Democratic governors of different places, the CDC itself. He shut down the border. He shut down like with China, and he did a lot to try.
He's done all this. He stole supplies and we're heading to certain states so that he could then funnel them out of his own fucking administration.
That's all a distraction anyway, though. Like, who cares about that so much? Like,
I gotta end this call, Kellen.
Okay, well, hold on. Let's calm down a second. We're almost done. But okay, so maybe you're right about some of that COVID stuff. But I heard that a lot of that is actually not his fault. It doesn't seem like. I can send you whatever information I get on that.
I'm not pro. Let me tell you, I don't think that DNC Democrats are fucking great people either. But they're way the fuck better than the GOP Republican side. And this whole Trump admin has gone extreme neo-fascist level.
Not at all. He hasn't done anything fascist.
Yes, he has. He's gone on a fascist fucking playbook. I sent you that shit from early 1930s Hitler.
In terms of policy, he's done nothing. He's done nothing. He's like a constitutionalist. He's changed nothing. He's done nothing fascist. He signed less executive orders than Obama did.
I can't believe
he arrested less illegal immigrants than Obama did. Obama was over 400,000. Trump never topped.
Look, I didn't vote
300,000
for
or something.
Obama in 2012 because he drone bombed and illegal immigrant and bank bailout shit. But I'm voting for Biden now just because fuck Trump. He needs to get the fuck out of here and in jail.
Why? What has he done?
He's tax fraud, sexual assault.
Taxes. Forget about his taxes. That has nothing to do with his job as president.
Money laundering, all kinds of shit.
Biden's dirty as fuck. Have you seen the new shit coming out about Hunter Biden's emails?
Look, dude, I gotta stop.
I know if you're getting to.
I'm getting to the point where
Okay, but let me tell you something that's true.
Anymore. You know,
we're almost done. We're almost done.
What's the done? What is the finality here? Like,
there's no finality. I just want to tell you. I just want you to understand that Trump's positive contributions as president have gotten zero press, and they exist.
Hold
on. I got some lists.
There might be one thing he's done, and sometimes it's like someone's like, Trump saved 7,000 acres of this national forest. Oh yeah, well he also took away 13.8 million acres of the Alaskan wilderness and the rest of the national park. So then that's a negative of 12.8 million acres. And so you're saying, oh, you're not saying the good things. He took away the 7,000 acres and he saved that part. And I'm like, it doesn't fucking add up. And you know what? I already said.
Okay, here, I wrote down this little list.
I want to find my goddamn list.
Do it. Let's exchange lists of you tell me everything negative Trump has done. Please, I want to see it. I really am open-minded.
This is in response to somebody saying all this shit that Trump did. And it was probably that exact list that you're going to read.
Yeah, probably.
And I said to them, and I don't want to fucking spend all the time going through each thing, but every single one of them pretty much was like, that's bullshit. Yeah. It's a lie. And it actually was something like Obama put in place, and then it just carried over, or it was like, the negative parts of it, like I just explained when he did when they say, oh, he saved this amount of land from being polluted or whatever, and like it doesn't begin to add up to with the negative consequences. It doesn't even fucking matter. You're gonna read me a list. I don't want to hear.
I'm not gonna read you that list. That's not what I'm doing. But I should send it to you because I don't think he's done anything remotely fascist.
Or send it to me and I'll go through each fucking point and probably like fact check it.
But can you send me the list you're talking about? Can we agree to do that? And then I'll send you mine. So I want you to understand that I really am being honest when I say that my natural disposition, my natural place is progressive left, center left.
Then how can you support Trump?
Because I think that what's his name? Biden is going to be so, okay. You got to understand, I really do think that the radical left has the potential to destroy American society. And I see that movement being very dangerous.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, because do you know the history of communism? Do you know how bad things can get?
Kellen, I'm not gonna get into this. I'm too tired for this.
They can get really bad.
I'm not scared of communism right now. I'm scared of neo-fascism, if anything.
I don't see that.
He's saying he's not going to accept the fucking election results.
Trump is not great. Trump is not great. I'm saying
he's trying to do everything he can to undermine democracy in this country.
Not at all. He's afraid that the Democrats are, and I believe they are.
A Supreme Court justice 4 days before the fucking election. It's going to be the deciding vote on the election. How does it not get any more fucking fascist?
What was that? What happened?
They're trying to force through a super conservative Supreme Court justice to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who recently died 4 days before election. That's
constitutional. Packing the courts is changing the system.
Obama, who was trying to put a Supreme Court justice through in the last year, and they said no.
It's been done 29 times. 29 times in U.S. history.
The deciding vote, if it goes to the Supreme Court, if the election goes to, that's stealing a fucking election. And not only that, they're doing all kinds of shady ass shit with trying to destroy the post office before mail-in ballots, like claiming that if Biden wins, just flatly claiming out, if Biden wins, it's going to be because of cheating. He's starting to plant the seeds to make his side not accept the results if he loses, no matter what.
Well, that's an assumption again, and I think that people,
he's done it a number of times.
I call that Trump derangement syndrome. It's this thing where people think Trump is evil, super evil. He's just he's a flawed human being. He's not presidential. What he has done is he has lowered the rhetorical bar a lot.
You're a fucking psychology student. You don't know
I am.
He's got narcissistic personality disorder.
He's narcissistic? Sure, he's narcissistic, but he hasn't done anything fascist. He hasn't changed any policy-wise, no. Rhetoric-wise, yeah, he's lowered the bar for the rhetoric of an American
he's surrounded
president. That's
himself
about it.
Like the only people that agree with him. He's gutted every agency that he doesn't believe in. He's refused the law process. He doesn't show his tax returns. He's done all this fucking corrupt shit, all this shit with Russia.
There's nothing with Russia. They've never proved anything to do with Russia.
I already talked to you about that.
I don't believe he had any collusion.
They didn't allow any witnesses at the trial, and they said, "Oh, it's a sham trial."
I'll look into that. I have that written down. I'm going to watch that.
I watched it as it was happening. So it wasn't even on the news. It was straight from the source. All right,
so I know you got to go, but I want to say a couple more things.
No, I don't think so. You say what you got to say real quick, but if it gets onto these details, I'm just going to hang up.
No, I get it. Okay, so the first thing I was going to say is I'm progressive left by disposition. I'm a compassionate person. I am. That's who I am. I would love to be progressive left, but I find myself listening to right-wingers down in the United States and seeing so much insanity and danger on the left. I really feel like the danger because I want the whole system to continue to exist. I feel that is what is best for people. And I care about people, and I want the world to be a good place. That's racist. Why are you being racist?
Because I'm saying that you want this system. It doesn't work for so many
capitalist
people.
system.
There's a huge uprising of people that are a certain color who feel discriminated against, saying that
mostly white.
This system isn't working for us, and you're saying I want to keep that system going.
A lot of black people don't support Black Lives Matter.
I'm a white person, and I have compassion for other people that I see being discriminated against based on the color of their skin, not just with police, across the board in the system. It's a fucking well-known fact here. And if you can't see that, that means you're blind to it. That means you're watching only right-wing news that is super biased, and you're probably eating up these fucking YouTube videos that are ridiculously wrong, that just say shit, and then you believe it. And it adds to this narrative.
Well, I know that critical race theory comes from applied postmodernism, comes from Marxism, comes from the idea that capitalism is evil and should be destroyed. I think it's just an anti-capitalist thing, and I think it preys on compassion. And you mentioned Donald Trump being Donald Trump.
How does capitalism relate to compassion to you?
How does what?
I mean, we were at Salt Spring together. How does capitalism, as it is, relate to compassion?
Because it's the only functioning system we've ever seen, and humans are a species of primate. Humans are a species
have exploited it and broken it.
People who are
working in an ideal sense in some way, but it doesn't, because it's about survival of the fittest.
But what do you think? What do you think should be put in its place? Do you know how evil communism was? It was so evil, you have no idea. 150 million people died. 150
4 times. Democratic socialism, motherfucker. Do you remember that?
I do, but that's capitalism. That is capitalism.
With healthcare and with.
I'm not arguing against that. I'm not arguing against social programs.
We don't get it because the right wing says that that's socialism or that's communism.
Well, then I'm clearly not right wing because I'm for those programs.
Yeah, but you're supporting the people in this country that are. I'm
supporting the people who are going to oppose the radical left, who could destroy the social system.
They're believing from this propaganda bullshit that you're eating up.
I don't think so. I think it's psychologically informed, and I think it's a real danger. And I think 150 million people dead in the 20th century is a big deal. And I think that education is not so well taught in universities.
Of
I think it's not so well taught.
Has to prevail and fucking and like force it on other countries through war and all this stuff. That communism. I mean, are we back or are we full circle now? Okay, it went back in the 50s. It was the fear of communism, the Red Scare. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then it went to
because it's a pathological philosophy that is behind the critical race theory. It's the same philosophy.
There was the war on drugs. Oh, drug is the new number one enemy. So let's start locking up black and brown people for non-violent drug offenses like fucking crazy. Okay, that was the war on drugs. Okay, now
I heard it was also a war against. Let me just
terror.
Comment on that. I heard that it was also, and this was an article about saying, yes, okay, so it was a bad thing, but it was also saying that it was against anti-capitalism because the Black Panthers were Marxist. They were Maoist. They loved Chairman Mao. They used to read the Little Red Book.
Super racist fucking system back then. The Black Panthers, they went in and they murdered that fucking 19-year-old or 20-something-year-old Black Panthers leader, George something, man. I wish I could remember his name. He's fucking awesome.
Because communism is a serious threat.
He's a fucking hero. No. That whole Red Scare, Joseph McCarthy thing, how can you even fucking think like that? It's so old. We're over that.
We're not over that because communism would be a horrible idea.
No, we're not going back to communism right now. That's not a fucking threat.
Good. I'm glad to hear that you think that. I'm not sure. I think, okay, the Black Lives Matter people, why do you think they want to disrupt the nuclear family? Why do you think they want to abolish the police? These are communist aims.
What's the agenda? Is to disrupt the nuclear family.
Yes, it is.
Shit.
They've stated it. They've stated it in writing. No, okay.
I can't have it. You're watching the wrong shit.
They've said it. No, they've said it. Black Lives Matter has said it. Disrupt nuclear family. The Western prescribed
who the fuck cares?
Mandate of the Black Lives Matter organization.
No.
It's not good. It's not a good idea.
What does that mean? I gotta leave, Kellen. I gotta go.
Hey, let's not end this on a bad note, Josiah. We both have different information. I want us
let's stop talking about this, or we are going to end it on a bad note.
We're done. But I want you to look into everything that I've said.
Yeah, send me what you got. What I got.
Send me what you got too, please. Like I said, I want people, because this is tense. You notice between you and me, this is tense. But at least we're having the conversation, because these are the two.
We're watching different shit.
We are.
And you're eating up like stuff that I think is completely false. And you probably think that about what I'm eating up. I don't doubt that. So that's where we're at, and that's why there's probably so much division. So let's bring it full circle like that. Something we can agree on. The media is fucking lying to us, not just on the left or the right, but both sides have been lying to us. It's part of their job to entertain and keep people distracted in some way or another. And I'm not saying that's the whole global conspiracy. I think that fucking Trump needs to end right now. He's a criminal and he needs to get the fuck out immediately. And all the people that have, like, not people, but all the politicians who have been sucking his dick need to go too. And I think there's a lot of division. I think we can agree on it. A lot of that's because of what we're seeing, and we see different things. Because the stuff you sent me a lot of times is like very right-leaning YouTube videos and stuff like that. And
what, like the Kyle Rittenhouse defense team video? It's like,
well, that was from his lawyer. How much more in like a bias can you get than his fucking?
Well, it's
lawyer?
Already been proven accurate about the guy who fired the shot that you knew nothing about. The guy who fired the warning shot has been arrested for doing it. The real guy who fired a shot behind Rittenhouse while he was being mauled.
That's still on Kyle Rittenhouse for involuntary manslaughter.
I don't think so. Self-defense.
No, it wasn't the guy that shot the gun. He wasn't being shot at. It could have been a firework,
I shouldn't have been attacking a guy with a gun. It's a bad idea.
It was a firework instead of a gun. And he
felt his life was in danger. He's going to walk.
I know he probably did, but he made a mistake, and he shouldn't have done that. So that's involuntary manslaughter.
Self-defense, I think. We'll see.
Yeah. I'm not really faithful of the U.S. justice system either, and really carrying out proper justice always. But so I'm not.
I noticed that, but I think they're probably pretty good, like way better than you think.
Yep.
I think so.
I think you would think that. And,
okay, but send me the stuff you have on Trump, and send me. I'll send you the things that I think that he's done as a president, which have been good, or not done, which are also good, like started new wars. Yep. And let's leave it on that. I want to talk to you again. I want to talk to you again. But
no, I'm actually going to a Vipassana coming up here.
That's awesome. Good for you.
I'm going to be there for the election for 10 days.
Yeah.
To the 8th.
Beautiful.
And yeah, it'll be good. I need to get the fuck out of this, man. My mind.
Yeah, well, I've been meditating lately too, and I'm gonna keep up a daily practice. So
Yeah, good. Me too.
awesome, man. Thank you so much for having this very difficult, intense conversation with me.
Yeah,
I hope
totally.
that it's been productive, and I hope that we can learn. Like, I hope that you can show me.
I definitely learned like
Yeah,
more. I feel like I wasn't like getting the full viewpoint of you. I'm glad I did,
yeah,
and,
yeah.
and more
And I
so.
want to learn too. I want you to tell me like what I'm wrong about. Like if I like you understand, I'm not fully pro Trump. I think that some of the stuff he says is ridiculously stupid, and he should never have said a lot of the things.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's a cut and dry, blatant racist or this or that. I think it's human nature. It's human psychological nature to demonize people, and I think that's what's been done with Donald Trump. And maybe it's the same with me with the radical left or whatever, right? The communist threat. It's
Maybe.
that's my own tendencies towards an extremist point of view. But
Yeah. Interesting. To
yeah.
do a psychological study on why we choose one or the other, as far as our demon boogeyman.
Right.
Look, and honestly, like I super dislike Trump. I think he's horrible, and I also really dislike the establishment Democrats. I think that there was a lot of things that Obama and Clinton did, for instance, before, and Biden, that were destructive and that allowed actually somebody like Trump to come into power. And I think it was actually Trump's power. People voted for him originally because they thought he's different and they wanted somebody different than.
They had so much hope with Obama, right?
But then he stacked his cabinets with the worst and most vile people, and like
Ben Carson. Ben Carson's a good
Ben
dude.
Carson's horrible.
What? No, really?
Yeah,
I heard he was good.
Anyways, so not to get too political at the end, but all I'm just saying is what was I saying? So I don't. It's not like I support them. I'm for real change, which to me is democratic socialist ideas that Bernie Sanders has.
It sounds like I'm for that too. I'm for universal healthcare. I'm for some social programs.
But ultimately, this time around, I'm voting for Biden because I think it's extremely important that Trump leaves office and that we at least have somebody that we can maybe have a chance more of pushing to the left and to supporting more of the real change that we need. I don't have a lot of hope, honestly, but I'm just doing it because I would literally vote for fucking anything over Trump, honestly. And they knew that, and they like ganged up and like did this coordinated effort to take down Bernie and give it to the establishment motherfucker who was also a rapist, who I was like, believe all women except for like Tara Reid, and all that. So like hypocrites, and he takes money from corporations, but Trump is just that much more terrible that without a blink of an eye will I vote for Biden, even knowing all these things. Without even a second doubt, I'll just vote for Biden, even though I really
absolutely wouldn't, because he just cowers to these people who I think are interested in taking over American society by force.
Trump sucks Putin's dick. He does anything Putin wants, and Putin wants to fucking.
Biden's taking money from Ukrainians and the Chinese.
Who are scared of the Red Scare, the communist Red Scare, can accept somebody who's so in bed with fucking Russia and Putin and has secret meetings with
the fact that you think that he is like that all that collusion actually happened.
He's having some fucking off the books record meetings with Putin and all this kind of fucking shady shit, man. Getting a lot of money from Russia.
I don't know. I think that's all propaganda.
Nope, he's a money launderer.
Biden's bad too. Biden's bad with the corruption with the Chinese and the Eastern Europeans.
Doesn't compare. But so, anyways, that's where I'm at. And cool. Good.
But yeah, send me the negative Trump stuff. I'll send you the positive Trump stuff that he did as president, because I don't think he's done very, very bad as president, except for dividing people so much with his idiotic rhetoric.
Gotcha. I will do that, and I probably can't talk again until after Vipassana, and I'll probably be in a different headspace then, and may not even want to dive into these things anymore. And we'll know a lot more with the election by then, so it'll be interesting to talk about post-election.
Yeah, for sure. But I would like to speak to you again. I feel like these conversations are productive. And hey, I'm gonna change some perspectives. I'm gonna learn some things that I didn't know before by the next time that we talk.
Yeah, I hope I do too. I hope, like, there's something that I'm missing that I can um, really like learn and actually authentically believe, and I hope that you do too.
Yeah,
So
again, because like
I just believe shit because people say it.
exactly. Yeah, you want to see both sides. That's why I want to have these conversations because I want to see things that I'm missing, right? And if you're only listening to people who are dyed in the wool right wingers or left wingers, you're not going to get the whole picture.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to have these conversations, and I'm not afraid to get upset during these conversations
Yeah.
either. And so that's just how I am. So if you want to keep having me on, then you're welcome to.
Thank you,
Uh,
Josiah. And you know
yeah,
what? You asked me why I wanted to have you on. It's because I like you, man. Like
well,
I enjoyed my time on Salt Spring Island with you. I thought we did
yeah,
cool stuff. Like
yeah,
we watched some cool
great.
movies. What's that guy's name?
Yeah, I was just thinking about him, Jodorowsky.
Yeah, Jodorowsky.
You watch like Holy Mountain or El Topo or something.
Yeah, I think it was El Topo.
Yeah, El Topo.
And then I watched Holy Mountain another time too. So yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, cool, man. No, I just like I thought that I know you're a good guy.
yeah.
And I'm a good guy too, and I figured you would know that.
I know that.
So
I know that as well. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt like most people that I disagree with are good people. It's
yeah.
not that I think that these people are evil. I just think that there's a lot of propaganda going around, and there's a certain aptitude of certain people to get attached to some things, and I have a certain aptitude to get attached to other things. So um, it's like we're in different worlds sometimes.
It is. It is. And it becomes a problem when there's people in two different worlds and these two worlds hate each other and then they can go to war and we don't want that.
Yeah, no, man, I got nothing but love, even for the people that I disagree with, and you especially. And I appreciate you having me on here and like allowing me to, get turned up a little bit here. And like I said, I'm happy to have these conversations. I don't know that they're I don't know that there's solutions, honestly, to like, or I don't know that everything that we've talked about has a common ground, really, because it really goes back to some fundamental ideas about who we think human nature, what we think of human nature, and what we think of these
I think
things.
human nature is beautiful, even if it has a
Good, I do too.
capacity for violence.
Yeah, me too.
All
Um,
right, Josiah, thank you so
all right,
much.
well, on that note is a good note to leave on, and thanks for holding out a little longer so we could do that.
All right, I appreciate it.
Yeah, take care. Peace.
Talk to you later.